investing in the right team more than anything. You can have the best product in the world, but if you don't have people that are going to be out there sort of doing the right thing, telling the right story, and ultimately taking care of your customers, it doesn't really matter. I sort of believe that if you take care of your employees and take care of the customers, a lot of the other things will take care of itself. And so we've invested in really bringing together a group of true industry experts from all the sort of different disciplines of advertising technology, a lot of people that have been on the publishing side of things, and just have an incredible group of people that are so smart and hardworking and caring and pushing us forward every single day. And I genuinely believe that the people side of things is underrated sometimes in the tech business. Of course, your technology has to be incredible, unless you have wonderful people that are out there sort of working hard with their clients to make sure it's implemented well and being used and doing, in our case, all the yield management, all of the things with the technology tools. You don't have much of a company. So we sort of joke that steal the Zappos line that we're a customer service company that happens to do ad tech, and we really kind of believe that.
Welcome to Grow Think Tank. This is the one and only place where you will get insight from the founders and the CEOs of the fastest growing privately held companies. I am the host. My name is Gene Hammett. I help leaders and their teams navigate the defining moments of their growth. Are you ready to grow?
Your people are the most important piece to you growing your company and it's scaling beyond where you are today. Why do I say that? Well, if you're a one-person company, then maybe you still got to work on your marketing and sales or product market fit. But if you have 10 people, 20, 50, 100, 200, 300, 500, it's your people that will do all the heavy lifting to scale your company. You, as the leader of this company, are responsible for creating an environment for them to play at their highest level, for them to feel empowered, to feel really connected to the work. And if you do that well, the company will grow beyond where it is today because any challenge that they meet, they'll be able to navigate around it. Your core team is very important to your success. Today, we're going to look at creating leadership that is people-focused. We have the CEO and president of Freestar. Freestar was on the show before. They were number one in 2019. They were also 36 or so in 2020 on the Inc. list. But what we talk about today is a little mixture of how do you invest in your people the right way? What does that look like? It's not ping pong tables and beanbag chairs or even free food, but actually, what does it look like? We talk about some of the details behind that. We look at the values of a company that's growing really fast and why they're so important, and how do you actually celebrate those that are embodying those values. All of this inside this episode with a little bonus. We talked about some of the key ways to create connection with remote employees because a lot of companies are still working in remote environments. All that is in today's episode with Kurt Donnell, and he's the CEO of Freestar. Now, here's the interview now. Kurt, how are you?
Doing well, Gene. How are you doing today?
I am fantastic. Excited to have a podcast interview with another CEO, founder, president, all of these people we put onto the Inc. That come from the Inc. list on Grow Think Tank. So happy to have you here.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Kurt, we've already had David on the show before, and I remember we had a great interview. You guys were number one on the Inc. list in 2019, number 36 on the Inc. list in 2020. We're going to talk about fast growth companies, but I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about Freestar and the category that you're in. So tell us more.
Yeah, sure. So we operate in sort of an interesting spot in the digital media space where we essentially work with publishers to help them optimize their revenue. We sort of take care of all the advertising side of things so that they can focus on the content piece and the audience development piece. So we started about 5 years ago helping publishers optimize revenue with what's called programmatic advertising, where there's a real-time auction that happens for the ads that you see on the internet. And we do that 10 to 15 billion times a month on behalf of our 400 publishing clients.
Well, we see the ads all the time. We probably already know that you're in the background. Is that kind of fair to say?
It is, yes. We are a very interesting little niche in the middle there where we kind of act as an extension of the team. So you would never know that somebody else is running this. It's just as if you went to, ESPN.com or something like that. The ads are showing up, whether it was their team doing it or it's somebody like jcpenney.com who we work with, or barstoolsports.com who we work with. We take care of all of those ads on their behalf and sort of run all the auctions, collect all the payments, and sort of take all of the hassle out of it for them so they can focus on the thing that they're best at, which is the content side.
Perfect. Kurt, you're on the show to talk about how we could learn from you in creating a fast growth company. We've already established that you guys were growing fast. What do you think the core to your leadership and culture strategy has been to allow you to grow so fast?
Sure. I think it's really investing in the right team more than anything. You can have the best product in the world, but if you don't have people that are going to be out there sort of doing the right thing, telling the right story, and ultimately taking care of your customers, it doesn't really matter. I sort of believe that if you take care of your employees and take care of the customers, a lot of the other things will take care of itself. And so we've invested in really bringing together a group of true industry experts from all the sort of different disciplines of advertising technology, a lot of people that have been on the publishing side of things, and just have an incredible group of people that are so smart and hardworking and caring and pushing us forward every single day. And I genuinely believe that the people side of things is underrated sometimes in the tech business. Of course, your technology has to be incredible, but unless you have wonderful people that are out there sort of working hard with your clients to make sure it's implemented well and being used and doing, in our case, all the yield management, all of the things with the technology tools, you don't have much of a company. So we sort of joke that steal the Zappos line that we're a customer service company that happens to do ad tech, and we really kind of believe that.
Now hold on for a second. Kurt just said something very interesting. Take care of your people and they will take care of your customers. You've probably heard this before, but here's the reality of this phrase. A lot of leaders are focused on other things than their people. They're focused on maybe their sales campaigns or their marketing, or maybe it's even the product. They're focused on the work, but that's not what it says to take care of your customers. Focus on the people, because here's the thing. All the people that are out there on the front lines of your business, they're the ones that are smiling and taking care of all of the issues with your customers. So you want to make sure they're feeling taken care of. How do you do that? Well, there's a lot of the details inside interviews like this on the podcast, but I'm just going to put a spotlight on this for a moment, because if you take care of your people, they will take care of your customers. Just remember that. Back to Kurt. It's interesting you bring that up, because Zappos, got a huge purchase price from Amazon years ago, and a lot of people didn't understand why, but it was really because they were buying the culture there and what was really going on. When you take that same approach, what would we see strategically inside your company to let you know you're investing in your employees?
Yeah, I think it's been interesting this year. A lot of companies obviously have the ping pong tables and all of those things in the office. That isn't culture. Those are things that are just amenities. It's what you're really doing to help really make your employees better people and better human beings. And that's something that we've talked about. And in a completely virtual world, you have to do it differently. We've historically had offsites where we fly the whole company in. And unfortunately, haven't been able to do those this year, but we did carry through things like our speaker series that we would do at our offsites. We're now doing once or twice a month here remotely. And so we get to hear from interesting entrepreneurs or wellness instructors or, guided meditation for the team. And we try to invest in people and their personal growth journey so that they can, continue to be fulfilled. We're very transparent in the company too. I think that's wildly important so that people know that you trust them. If it's an instance of should we share something or not, we always err on the side of sharing a little bit more and trusting our people to be the adults that will use that information very effectively. And so we're a very open culture. Some other things we've done and just sort of the culture side of things. Obviously, it's been a very interesting year this year for a host of reasons, but obviously a lot of the equality, inclusion things. We've done sort of a virtual documentary club, kind of like a book club of documentaries, where we've watched things as a team and then gotten together and discussed a range of topics from race to mental health to transgender issues and kind of across the board. And so I think it's the little things where you lean in to your employees and kind of show that you want them to be great human beings that kind of translates and helps them grow.
I know some companies probably resist doing this because it seems really touchy-feely to be a better human being. Why do you feel like that's so important for the culture of the company?
I started my career as a lawyer at large law firms, and I realized pretty quickly that was not my calling in life, but I realized throughout that I was very much a cog in the wheel, and there was going to be a new class of summer associates that were coming the next year. And the model there was you would start with, depending on the size of the firm, 12 people or 20 people, 50 people, and they would know that only 1 or 2 people out of that class would make it to be a partner. And it's a little bit disheartening when you see the model is we know we're just going to burn a bunch of people out and let them sort of meander away versus leaning in and helping them grow. And so I kind of had that sort of cog in a wheel mentality, and I hated it because I really felt like well, there were people that certainly were invested in you. The model itself was not invested in helping you grow and become a better person in your career. And just over time, I realized the people that I loved working for, because they were great bosses and mentors, were people that really leaned in and cared. And so I've really tried to bring that, I guess, with me as I've gone through my career and had the chance to sort of lean into other people and show them that I care. And a lot of people don't do that. One of the first things I did when I came into the company was sort of interview every single employee, and sat down, and it was kind of amazing how many people, like, nobody's ever done this before. And it was such an obvious thing to me that I would want to get to know the people that I had the chance to work with and lead, but so many people don't take the time to do it. And so I think it's just that human connection that's going to then give you credibility with them the next time that maybe you have to have a tough discussion about something, or you make a tough strategic decision for the company. They're going to believe you because they know you as a person. And so I think that leaning in on the human side is just vital for long-term success.
Kurt, it's interesting. You talked about, interviewing people in the beginning. What would it look like now if we looked at a typical week? How much time you're spending with your employees doing the things that we would call like caring for them and coaching them and listening to them?
It's never as much as I would like. Things have been obviously increasingly busy. When I started, we were, call it 30-ish employees, and now we're 70-ish employees. So it gets more difficult, but I will say that every single new employee, I make sure that I still, just ping them a couple weeks in and chat with them for even 10 or 15 minutes to kind of understand their background, where they're coming from. I also believe exit interviews, every company does them. I think it's a pretty terrible time to find out what you should be doing as a company. I think you should do kind of entrance interviews about 3 or 4 weeks in, when people have gotten a lay of the land, but not maybe yet kind of assimilated into any good, bad, or otherwise habits of the new company, and still have kind of a fresh point of view. I think you can get some really great insights from folks. So I like to lean in and kind of meet them as people, but also they give me tremendous feedback about, why are we doing it this way? Or this is how I used to do it. And it's led to just some sort of interesting conversations and ideas along the way.
Let's get specific with that. This interest interviews, you said 2 to 3 weeks in. What is something you've learned from talking to someone who is that new into the company that has been able to make an impact across the company?
There's been things of like just asking questions of maybe why is this group structured this way, or things about sort of communication things of, it feels like this company uses Slack way more than other things. And I had a different experience where we Slack for this thing and email for this thing. Just little tidbits like that. Questions about sort of communication in general have certainly popped up, but also things about like, it would have been really helpful if I would have been able to dive in to do XYZ in my first couple of weeks that were a little more hands-on. It was all the different types of learners. Some people are great sort of visual learners. Some people are better reading it. Some people need to be doing it. And it's been interesting to kind of find that out. And it's helped us craft onboarding a little bit better. For instance, when somebody was like, yeah, I was reading all the conflict documents, but I really wanted to be in there working on things. And so it's helped us just sort of grow to match the different kind of personalities that are going to be coming into the company in general.
One area we haven't touched on, Kurt, is values of the company. A lot of companies in the Inc. 5000, the interviews I've had here on the show, have talked about the importance of living the values day in and day out, managing, leading, even exiting employees. How are you guys living by the values there at Freestar?
Sure. I was very lucky to come into an organization that had real values. They had done what I think most startups did, made a bunch of values that sounded great. They stuck them on the wall. And they're wise enough a couple years in to realize that they were kind of BS and nobody could repeat them if you ask them. And they kind of went, I think, to the whole company and said, what should our values really be? And the first of which is publisher first. The second is we, not me. And the third is above and beyond. I loved those. The way our business model works, it's a revenue share. So we only win when our partners are winning. And so we're very aligned. And so anything we do, we have to be publisher first in that and have that mentality across the board. And I've seen that just play out time and time again, where it really is a value that helps answer decisions or answer questions for people and make better decisions of, should I cut this corner? Should I do X, Y, Z? No. Is that publisher first? And if it's not, then that's not something we do as a company. The next is we, not me. We really firmly believe that we're sort of all in this together, and it's not my trash on the floor, your trash on the floor, it's our trash on the floor. And we only get better sort of together. We talk a lot about getting kind of 1% better each week, and that comes from the collective group all leaning in and helping there. And then the last is above and beyond, and it's really that in anything we do, we want to be the absolute best we can possibly do, and they aren't things that are just on the wall. Shortly after I started, we kind of started celebrating them in our all hands. I think actually my first all hands, I I toss the slide in there and ask the team to give examples of that. So every month we have sort of somebody that exemplifies our values and are living our values, sort of award winners. And it's nice to keep that sort of drumbeat going where it's not just something on the wall. It really is part of the culture. And I think it's sort of sets the tone across the board when people talk about that. And we've actually seen it now come back in some of our NPS scores, which I think is pretty interesting to hear them sort of recited back to you. That was a very proud moment for me and probably our HR team as well.
Now hold on for a second here. Kurt just talked about giving awards out to people who exemplify the values of the company. Have you ever thought about recognizing the people that are living by the values that you hold dear, that you want to see more of in the organization? Well, one thing that you can do is to give them awards like Kurt talked about. Another thing you can do is just allow for inside your meetings for people to recognize others that are living by the values. Little micro moments, maybe it's stories, maybe it's just a thank you, a moment of gratitude, but letting other people know from a peer level to other peers who is living by the values. When you talk about it consistently, you have a better chance to have that as a part of the core structure, the DNA of your company. So that's one way that you can do that. If you're looking for other ways, make sure you check out more content here on the podcast. Now back to I've seen a lot of clients that are celebrating this. I'm just kind of curious, are you guys giving physical awards? Is it monetary awards? What does those awards look like for values?
Yeah, for a while it was sort of a list of a number of people that were exemplifying the values with stories. We've actually switched to it being sort of one Living Our Value Award winner every month. We have a Freestar swag store where you can get any number of branded items. So the winners each month get some points to the store where they can go pick up some new gear. We have pretty nice items in there. So that's what we've been doing this year, and maybe mix that up over time, but that's the current prize.
Is that recognized by their peers, or is it something that comes from the leadership team?
It's a combination. We take nominations kind of across the board tends to be a little bit more of the management team, but anybody is welcome to toss that out. I got actually a Slack this week from somebody that just was sort of explaining a wonderful situation, an experience they'd had with another team member on a different team, and just wanted to make sure that they were getting the recognition that was due. So it really is kind of across the board.
Kurt, is there anything that you do differently across the Freestar culture that we could learn from as you've created this fast growth engine that we haven't already talked about today?
I think it's transparency as much as you possibly can, and really giving people that trust where they know that you're telling them everything you can. And then there's moments when you don't tell them something, they're going to know that there's a reason for that because it really is confidential. It's an HR matter or something like that. I think that builds a level of trust that is vital. The other piece I would say is in this crazy COVID time where everybody's remote, you got to lean in harder and harder and harder on culture. You're not going to get the inherent moments where you have people interacting in the hallway. You got to create the opportunities for that. Despite being remote, we still did a summer retreat. We've got another virtual retreat coming up here in a couple of weeks. We're putting together cross-functional teams to work on some interesting, problems together and do sort of a hackathon of sorts, and then also do some fun activities. And you got to create the space for both of those. We still have a virtual happy hour scheduled pretty much every week now, and it's some combination of playing a virtual game. Sometimes it's documentary discussions, but really leaning in and trying to create those cultural moments virtually takes a lot of intentionality, and so I would encourage everybody to do that.
So Kurt, I didn't expect us to go into this virtual kind of conversation as much, but I want to give you one more chance to go deeper. A lot of people put resistance back and just say, well, you know what, in a virtual world that we're working in, it's just harder. It just is what it is, but they're not actually making the effort. So what would you say to leaders around creating the kind of connection necessary in this new virtual work environment that we have?
Don't be lazy. You can accomplish just about anything you want if you put your mind to it. There's been a bunch of interesting companies that have popped up to facilitate things online if it's not something you think you and your team can handle. It also is incredibly simple. Let the company know we're going to talk about XYZ documentary next week. Don't make it mandatory, but we get half the company showing up sometimes to talk about some interesting issues, and it's just being intentional about it, creating the opportunity for people to do it. And I think you'll be really impressed and surprised by the level of enthusiasm people have for this stuff and how much it means, frankly, when you as a leader show up and are vulnerable and talk about your own issues you've had in your life and various things. Again, it goes back to that sort of trust and human element of things that I think is just so vital.
Well, Kurt, you've shared a lot of insights and wisdom around leadership and culture here. Thanks for being on the podcast.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me, Gene. Really appreciate it.
Well, this wraps up another episode here with another leader talking about the importance of people. And when you lead a team and you want to grow fast, you want to make sure that you're putting the right emphasis and not being lazy and really focusing on how to grow those people, investing them wisely. If you're the kind of leader that wants to be a visionary leader, the best thing you can do is invest in your people. If you have any questions about that, we have a lot of free content on the website. Just go to genehammett.com. You can find the new series that's coming out called Optimize Your Time. If you want to improve that, make sure you check out all of the interviews around that. When you think about growth and you think about culture and leadership, go to Growth Think Tank. As always, lead with courage. We'll see you next time.